Let's get on with it. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you would, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. I really would. Okay, so Harvard. We're still talking about Harvard. And Harvard, they're doubling down. They're doubling down because President Trump is no longer going to fund their radical agendas. And they're mad about it. They're angry. Actually, it's like they're being defiant, and they're being defiant against the rule of law. What happened isn't Harvard, Shannon? Isn't Harvard a like a per se law school? Don't
It
people
is.
go there to become lawyers and
Yes, absolutely.
judges? And that the whole point of going to Harvard. So you got the one of the top law colleges in the world, mind you, and they're rejecting the law, Shannon. They're absolutely rejecting the law. So what I mean by that is that they should be wanting to protect everyone of all walks of life, but they're doing just the opposite. And the number of people that have come out of Harvard is really interesting to me. Now I remember watching this. I think it was like a documentary, and this was years ago. And this was with George W. Bush when he was in the White House, and a whole bunch of information about him came out about his time when he was going to Harvard. And have you ever heard of this group called Skull and Bones? Now, a lot of people, some of the left, they'll go, "Oh, it's not true. It's like a conspiracy. It's not even a real organization. They want people to believe it's something else other than what it actually is." And it's really not a real thing. Well, actually, Skull and Bones is actually a real thing, and apparently, the Bushes are a part of it. Wouldn't surprise me if Obama's a part of it, and other people. They're a part of what they call this organization, Skull and Bones. I think there's a name something else too, the Illuminati. Well, anyways, all of these people that have gone to Harvard, they're all connected. Every last one of them connected. They're all connected, and they're all working in the federal government for the most part. If they're not working in the federal government, they got their alumni, whatever you want to associate them with, connected with going to Harvard. So, the Obamas, the Bushes, no wonder why they get along so well. But President Trump, he's not one of them. The rest of the country, we're not one of them. So when you go to Harvard, I guess apparently you go to for the indoctrination. Is that what I'm supposed to believe? You go for the indoctrination. That's what's taking place there. And they've indoctrinated a lot of people. A lot of people got indoctrinated at Harvard. So the whole thing with Harvard right now, and they would have remained under the radar had they just done the right thing. If you're going to be hateful towards a specific group of people, Harvard should have nipped it in the bud. They wouldn't even be in the spotlight right now. They could have still been doing it, but when they had these people out on Front Street showing their hatred for a certain group of people, Jewish students, if they would have just nipped it in the bud and allow them to do all the other hateful stuff that they were doing behind closed doors, and then you would probably have some Jewish students come out and complain about it. Then people, for the most part, and I hate to say this, most people would just kind of ignore it, saying, "Oh, they're just complaining. They're just complaining." But 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 because they didn't do that, they basically doubled down on it, saying that they should be able to exercise their free speech. But what they were doing to these students at Harvard was not free speech. This is deliberate hatred. Like they're deliberately attacking these people. Deliberately, mind you. Like on purpose. Like this is what they want to do. And they were happy to do it. Happy to do it. And then, of course, just like I mentioned, you have the radical left, the politicians saying that President Trump is doing away with free speech because of what was happening with Harvard. They were attacking these people. And so many people talked about it before. Like if, let's just say, for example, that you have students that are happen to be black going to Harvard, and then they were trying to prevent these black students from going to the library, from going to class. They would say, "Oh my goodness, Trump supporters trying to prevent black students from going to class." That's exactly what they would be saying. Even if they were Democrats, let's say they were white Democrats that were preventing black students from going to class, the left would still come out and say that it's white Trump supporters preventing black students from going to class. They would still say that. But here, they can't say that in this case because a lot of Jewish people vote Democrat. It's kind of the same thing, but it's not. I'm surprised they're not even blaming. Actually, they are blaming President Trump for what's happening to the Jewish students on these colleges and universities. But President Trump has had enough. Harvard, President Trump said stop doing it. Harvard doubled down and said, nope, we're going to continue doing it. And then President Trump said, okay, if you're going to continue doing that, we're going to pull some of your funding. And Harvard doubled down because what they're sitting on like a 50 billion plus endowment, which it is just tax-free money that they're sitting on. $50 billion. So they feel strong. They feel like they're another country. They feel more powerful than the federal government because they have the backing of Obama, the Bushes, and all of the other elites. They have the backing of them to try to undermine President Trump, the United States of America, we the people. So they're completely fine with doing it. They're completely fine pushing back on President Trump. So the President Trump said, okay, you're going to go that route. You push, and then I push. Then you push, and then I push. And this latest thing, President Trump said, okay, well, we're going to prevent foreign students because it's these foreign students that are coming here. Now, even if you're an American student, you should not go to class or to school or anywhere threatening people. That's not cool at all. But the radical left, they're giving it a pass because it's Jewish students, which, again, I don't understand why Jewish students, Jewish families keep funding the Democrat Party. It's like they're funding their own demise. Kind of the same thing what black people are doing. And that's why I say there's somewhat a connection there. Because black people keep funding the Democrats too. They keep supporting them, keep pouring money into them, keep trying to advocate for them when it's the same Democrat Party that wanted slavery. It's the exact same Democrat Party. The party never switched. They like for you to believe that, but they never switched. The only thing that switched were their tactics. So I don't understand why Jewish students, Jewish families today support the Democrat Party when it's Democrats that's threatening them. Make it make sense. I actually have a person that I know. His name is Barry Newsbaum, and I consider him to be a friend. I've known him for years, and he's Jewish. And I asked him these questions too. And I've gotten really fond of him. I mean, we have a lot of conversations together. And I asked him the same question. And he said, well, Will Johnson, you asked me how come Jewish people keep funding the Democrat Party, and I could ask you the same thing about black people. And I said, touche. You're absolutely right. I don't get it. But you know what? As of right now, the Democrat Party, they're on the verge of collapse. They really are. They're on the verge of collapse, and I can't wait to see the day that they completely just cave in. They don't have a true leader. They don't know who to look to. They don't know who to call for. If something happens, who's going to stand out there for them? Jasmine Crockett? AOC? Another joke. Maybe they'll get Rashida Tlaib. Maybe they'll get Ilhan Omar. Nancy Pelosi, where's she at? Right? Nancy Pelosi just trying to probably figure out how to do her stock trades, before she's all done. But what's happening on these colleges and these universities should have never happened. The Democrats are so radicalized, they can't even put two and two together to realize that, hey, we need to stop this before they catch on to what we're actually doing here. See, I think there's more to this picture than just them attacking Harvard students that happen to be Jewish. There's more to this picture. There's more to it. And out of everyone to attack, why Jewish students? Why? I mean, and these radical liberals, they love to have people believe that the Bible's not real. But yet, the Bible tells us in the last days, the Jewish people in Israel will be persecuted like never before. And it's not even just in Israel, it's happening all over the planet. Why is that? What is it that they're so intimidated by Jewish people? And did you know in Israel, majority of the people, and I did say majority of the people that live in Israel happen to be atheists. That's not the reason why they're attacking them. They're attacking them because Jesus was a Jew himself. And the true living God of Israel, when Jesus returns back, where's he going to set his foot? He's going to set his foot on the Mount of Olives. And I know this to be true because everything else in the Bible has become true. And we're seeing things unfold right now before our very eyes. We're seeing biblical events happening right now. And as I was saying yesterday, it's like we're watching a movie. It really is. It's like we're watching an end time biblical movie, and you are the star. Listen to Alan Dershowitz while he was on with Faulkner. Well, was he one with Faulkner? But he's on here and he's talking about Harvard. You hear some right here, right now with Leo Terrell with Faulkner. And they're talking about Harvard. They should have never allowed to get to this point.
Because for 4 years, nothing was done to stop it in its tracks. And now it's been allowed to fester. And what happened last Friday? I went last Thursday with those two Israeli staffers. I was at the crime scene. I went to the embassy. It was horrific because this type of conduct should never be tolerated. And it's being tolerated only because of what did not occur for the last 4 years. We should have stopped it. How did we get here? Because we have tolerated anti-Semitism for the last 4 years. And basically the Trump administration, and thank goodness President Trump is in office, Harris, he's not going to tolerate it. He's going to eliminate it. That's why I'm in this role right now. That's why Pam Bondi's the Attorney General, and Harmeet Dillon is the civil rights head.
That was Leo Terrell, senior counsel in the Justice Department Civil Rights Division, speaking to Harris Faulkner, saying college campuses let anti-Semitism, quote, fester for the last 4 years. Woke ideology got so out of control at Harvard and at schools nationwide that President Trump says he's considering stripping Harvard of even more federal funding and instead giving $3 billion to trade schools. Let's welcome back to the show Harvard Law Professor Emeritus and constitutional lawyer and author, Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, it's so great to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Professor, what do you see at Harvard that shows it's clearly violating students' civil rights?
Well, it's even worse than Mr. Terrell has said. Harvard is not only tolerating anti-Semitism in two of its schools, the Divinity School and the Public Health School. It's actually teaching it and fomenting anti-Semitism. You know, it's interesting. I just wrote a new book called The Preventive State, and in it, I predicted precisely what was going to happen in the District of Columbia. I predicted that when you have violence of this kind, and by the way, 2 Harvard students who engaged in violence and harassment against Jews were just rewarded. One was named the class marshal at Divinity School. The other one was given a $65,000 grant by Harvard to continue his anti-Israel activities. When you have that kind of activity, it's only a short step to taking a gun and shooting and killing 2 people, which is what happened. As the result of what happened at the District of Columbia, I was getting an honorary degree that next day. And the school, another school, had to get extra police guards and come up with a mechanism for removing me in the event there was an attempt on my life. Because every prominent Jew, every prominent supporter of Israel now has a target on their back, in part as a result of what not only Harvard tolerated, but at least 2 schools at Harvard actively taught anti-Semitism. So something has to be done. Now, I think the president may have gone a bit too far by cutting off all funding. It should continue funding for cancer research and other scientific research and allow students to come from areas where there is no anti-Semitism. But his heart is in the right place, and something has to be done. And I'm glad that there are at least some efforts to try to stop Harvard and other schools from fomenting this kind of plague of anti-Semitism.
You know,
that's it's a human rights problem that America faces.
It's outrageous and a disgrace that now you're under threat, right? And this is after, as you point out, those 2 staffers at the Israeli embassy were slaughtered, in a really heinous fashion in our nation's capital. Let's talk about, you just mentioned Harvard's and the federal cutoff of spending for Harvard. Harvard's endowment is more than $53 billion alone. That's bigger than a Wall Street hedge fund. Nearly a dozen Ivies have a $283 billion in endowments. Government has massively increased spending on grants, student loans, and bailouts for schools. Tuition is at 4 times the rate of inflation, and colleges are padding their salaries and administrative staff with irresponsible spending while they're allowing this woke ideology and rampant anti-Semitism and bullying of students on campus. These Israeli leaders have said it doesn't go far from words to bullets, as you just pointed out. So something has to be done to stop it and clean it out for good.
Something needs to be done to stop it. Something truly needs to be done. And President Trump is trying to do that. Isn't it interesting that you have the radical left trying to stop President Trump from bringing peace? Why is that? Why do they feel like this urge, or the fight for them is to fight against Trump, when Trump is trying to say, allow everyone to be peaceful, allow everyone to thrive? This is what President Trump is saying. But the radical left, they have a different opinion about it. They have a different idea about it. They believe that you should be able to shut people down because they simply don't like you. And the Jewish students that are going to Harvard or any other university, what do they have to do with what took place in the Gaza Strip? What do they have to do with it? It's like me wanting to blame every single white person for what took place during slavery, when I know, and history shows us, that it was white Democrats that did slavery, that pushed slavery, that wanted slavery. Even today, they still want it. It's white Democrats. So how ignorant would it be on my part for me to point the finger and say, oh, white conservatives, they're guilty too, when they're not? They're 100% not. And then, of course, I'm going to get messages from, black people and even some white liberals saying, oh, you're just selling out to your people. Well, who are my people? My people are the people in the body of Christ. That's who my people are. And my people come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. You understand that? That's who my people are. Well, let me share some of this with you. This is a Harvard graduation. This was a Harvard graduation. Now, I'm just going to play the beginning of this, and then my producer, she's going to skip down to a part where she really wants to see. But I want y'all to see this very beginning, because this is what it's about. This graduation should be about what? The hard work that you've done for the 4 to 6 years, whatever it is, right? Typically 4 years. And now you have achieved by graduating the achievement. You should be there, get your diploma. Thank you, shake a hand, move on. Thank you, shake a hand, get your diploma, move on. That's all that it should be. But nope, radical Democrats, they have to incorporate.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
So every time I hear that now, I expect some violence to take place. I expect violence to take place every time I hear them scream that now. Every single time. Now, here it is.
Especially Yolanda, her courageous and loving mother. She says, Viva, Viva Palestina.
Juan Duran.
Juan thanks their friends and family for their support, laughs, and hugs. They will go on trying to make the world a kinder place.
Oh, my goodness.
Hannah Eliason is also graduating with a certificate in religion and public life.
Hannah thanks her family for their support and her students for being beacons of hope in troubled times. She says, divest and free Palestine.
So all these people are for Palestine when Palestine is not an actual place. Even at the United Nations, they don't even recognize Palestine as a state. They don't. The United Nations, the anti-Israel UN, doesn't even recognize Palestine as a state. when I first realized that and I learned that, I was like, wow, that's very interesting. How come they don't even recognize them as a state? Well, it takes other nations to recognize them as a state within inside the UN. You know, just one person inside the UN can't just go in there and say, oh, yep, they're a state now. Can't do it. So they have to get votes. They have to get approval from other nations. And that's never taken place. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why would Israel be recognized as a state, but so-called Palestine, what they keep screaming it out, talking about free it, where's it at? Where's it at? And the only place you find it on the map is the one that they created because they want to replace Israel with the entire world recognizes where Israel is.
And the whole Free Palestine thing is actually anti-Semitic. And so they're literally allowing this graduation to take place, and they're allowing these young people to have an anti-Semitic message. And it's funny because if you watch The View this past week, they actually got upset because Trump made a political statement in his memorial speech. Well, these young people are making a political statement at a graduation. Shouldn't we be equally upset?
You know, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. And you remember, Shannon, I was just talking to you, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, about President Trump when he went to, was it West Point? Was it West Point that he went to? He went to somewhere where they were graduating, right? Uh-huh. I forget which one it is. You know, President Trump is everywhere. He's like a machine. He keeps going. Well, he was there and he had on his MAGA hat. Remember I brought that up to you? He had on his MAGA hat. While President Trump was there with his MAGA hat, guess what? What did I tell you? I'm surprised. What did I say? I said, I'm surprised if the left doesn't come out and say, how dare he wear that hat? Like, you know, try to go say, oh, what about the Hatch Act, right? How dare he wear that MAGA hat? It was beautiful. It was red. And it says, make America great again. And of course, Shannon, they started complaining about it. They were complaining because he was there and had the hat on.
You know what? They're complaining because Trump is speaking. They're upset because Trump is walking.
I mean,
they're upset because
just because he's president,
anything,
the movement doesn't change. Right? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, that's his job. We voted him to make America great again.
Yeah, and they're fighting him every step of the way.
Oh my goodness, they get so triggered by it.
And it's funny because Trump, you know, he's like, you know what? There's a lot of things that the Democrats have done in the past 4 years that have been anti-American. They've been divisive. And Trump is saying, you know what? We're not going to do that anymore. So he's erasing a lot of the damage that they have done to America.
And he's trying to fix it.
And they're fighting him every step of the way. It just goes to show you that they want to destroy America. They want to be divisive. I mean, look at their actions right now. Their only agenda, if you ask anybody what's their agenda right now, it's going to be they are obstructionists, anti-Trump, whatever he's for, we're against. I don't even care. They don't even care if it's what's right for America. They don't care. They don't care if the big, beautiful bill will make us better, stronger. They don't care. It's Trump's agenda. They did the same thing during the civil rights. A lot of people sit there and they say, oh, well, the Democrats, they're the ones that did the civil rights. That's not actually true. Yeah. It was the Republicans that did the civil rights act.
And did you know there was the people that were marching with Martin Luther King, the white people that they're talking about? Did you know that they were Jewish, Shannon? Did you know a lot of them were Jewish?
They were marching with Martin
Luther King? Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that either until I talked to my good friend Barry Nussbaum, and he was saying, yeah, a lot of the people that were with him, that were marching with him, they were Jewish too.
Huh. Well,
right, and you know, the white people and Jewish people together, right there with Martin Luther King, Republicans, mind you, they were not Democrats, they were Republicans because they were marching against the Democrats.
Yeah, and just to finish my point, that the Democrats, when the Civil Rights Act came up, the Republicans brought it to the floor. And the Democrats kept filibustering it so it wouldn't pass. They wanted it for themselves. They finally passed it when they got back in power. So it's not that they introduced it. It's not that they wrote it. But they passed it only because they obstructed the bill while the Republicans were in power. They're doing the same thing now. This party has not switched. It is the same power hungry party it's always been.
Yeah, really. So let me share some more with you. And I've just recently seen this young lady, and she's been on MSDNC quite often. And of course, she's on here with common sense. You know, the Democrats, they don't like people with common sense, but she's on there. Listen to what she says here about Harvard.
I think people in the elites, especially people who have been to Harvard, don't quite understand how loathed the product of these elite institutions are to average Americans. People go to these universities, they get this degree, turns out at $2 billion of taxpayer expense, and then turn around and enact policy that actually hurts the very people who are the reason that they were able to become so successful. It's not just that people who go to these institutions are fabulously wealthy and more successful and working class people are struggling, but that from that perch of immense privilege, they have contempt for the hardest working people. And what Trump is basically doing is saying, actually, no, we're actually not going to do this anymore. We're not going to make the hardest working people subsidize the lives of the fabulously wealthy. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to take $3 billion from Harvard and give it to trade schools so that working class people can afford to buy homes. This stuff is just, I can't tell you, Mark, how much joy it brings me straight into my veins.
You know, it's always been about these elites. The Obamas, the Bushes, the Skull and Bones, there's like another one other than the Illuminati, and I can't remember the name of it. It's like on the tip of my tongue. Maybe y'all can help me out in the chat. Someone knows what I'm talking about. There's Skull and Bones, then there's the Illuminati, and there's one other one. I can't remember. But it's not important. The thing is that they're all part of the elites, right? The elites, they went into the federal government and they believe that they're above all of us, that they have this whole agenda that us as peons, we need to listen to them. They know what's best for us. And they don't even care because for them, it's about power. They're drunk on it. And here comes President Trump not being part of the club. President Trump not being part of the club, and he's disrupting everything that they have worked for. They want the country to be servants to them. Does that make sense? This is what they're looking for. They want us to be servants to them. They want us to adhere to them, to give them everything. And you had these Democrats all the time talking about the oligarchs, and they're saying, oh my goodness, President Trump is taken from the poor and given to the billionaires, which a bunch of BS. That's exactly what the Democrats have been doing all this time. And every time you hear the Democrats point the finger and say somebody is doing something, they're actually doing it themselves. And they don't want you to look at them because they want you to believe that it's President Trump. And the only reason why people believe that is actually happening because people actually see the Democrats doing it. But some people are so simple-minded, easily manipulated. They believe that President Trump is doing it when they see the Democrats doing it. Well, if the Democrats are doing it, then Trump is doing it too. But they have a problem with Trump doing it, even though he's not doing it. All right, let me talk about this really quick. The 1775 coffee, 1775coffee.com/studio.
That's right, Will. If you still haven't tried the coffee yet, now is your shot. Starter kit is just dropped 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than CNN fact check, and the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for a clean energy and laser focus, no crash. A single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting this. Listen to this: a gold spoon, because freedom isn't scooped up with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. And black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. That's right. All of this, $170 worth for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Well, guess what? It really, really is. You need to go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. You get bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. 1775coffee.com 1775.com/studio.
1775.com/studio. Go check it out. Go check it out. All right. Let's go to this one because I still really want to talk about this because, yesterday, the past few days, we've been seeing what's happening across, at least not across the country, but at least on the West Coast of America, where Christians have been basically attacked by a certain hate group, and this hate group that's attacking Christians right now. They're better known as Antifa, but I call them Trans-Tifa because they're all about the movement now. So they've been attacking Christians, and I've been mentioning this for years, how they're coming out there, those of us that are Christians that believe, and it's intensifying. And I think all of this is a part of it, right? Look how they are attacking Jewish students. And now because Christians, Bible believing Christians. Now, there's some people that call themselves Christians that hate Israel, and they believe all of the stuff about, oh my goodness, the Jewish people, they're taking over everything. And it's pretty ridiculous. But nonetheless, pay attention. The way that they're attacking Jewish students, now they're attacking Christians. But it's even worse, per se, right? It's even worse because Jewish students, they would go to the college campus, Harvard, what have you, and they would get yelled at, probably even pushed every now and then. But what's happening in Seattle and Portland, you have Trans-Tifa showing up, being extremely violent, wanting to harm people because they don't want to go with their radical agenda. But one of the things that really stand out to me, and as I mentioned this multiple times, it's like I believe that we're living in the last days. Some people don't, and that's fine. I'm not here to try to convince you of what I see. I'm just telling you my opinion on what I see happening. And a lot of stuff that, and look, I get things wrong all the time. So don't think that I'm trying to be like a prophet. I had to make sure I made that clear early on, because someone said, "Oh, Will Johnson, you must think you're a prophet." I'm like, what? It never even ran across my mind until someone pointed that out and said, "You're trying to be one." And I said, "No, I'm not," because I can admit that I'm wrong with things, and I want to be wrong with a lot of things. Like, for example, just really quick before we go to this next clip, I wanted to be wrong about James Comey. When he put out, when the whole seashell thing came up, something like 86-47, he said, "Oh, it's just a cool formation. He just happened to walk up on it." The ex-radical failed FBI director, James Comey, just happened to walk up on that seashell formation, and he called it cool. He thought it was an address. He's stupid. I said he wasn't going to go to jail. I said nothing was going to happen to him. And some people said, "Will Johnson, you're wrong. They're going to arrest him. He's going to be in trouble for this one. This just takes too far because he's advocating for violence against a president, and the same president that's trying to get rid of the violence on these college campuses, same president that they're calling violence towards," right? It's always the radical left. And I said nothing was going to happen to him. And guess what? He went, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That's not what I meant to do. That's the reason why I deleted it, because I realized afterwards." And nothing happened to him. Was Will Johnson right or what? And I didn't want to be right. I wanted to be wrong. Just like what I'm talking about right now, what's happening with us being in this movie called Life. And we're like looking at biblical events happening in real time. And I love the fact that I get to say that you are the star in this movie. You are the star. You're the main actor in this movie. And I just happen to be someone talking through the telly right now and people watching. But you are the star. You are God's child. You're the one that God put here during this time for you to stand up and say something. You don't have to be violent like the left, but to be silent gives them permission to come after our children, to come after our society, to come after our finances, to come after our freedoms. By us being silent gives them the right in their mind to do whatever wicked things that they want to do, because no one is telling them otherwise. Why do you think they were so eager to remove the 10 commandments from the courthouses and from schools and remove prayer. Now, you can have certain kind of prayer in schools, but you can't have prayer in schools that include the name of Jesus. But you can have other prayers. They'll allow for all others. But if you have prayer in the name of Jesus, and it's not just in schools, it's in the workplace, it's in the courthouse, it's in even public venues. If you are praying and you're saying it in the name of Jesus, they have a problem with it. Even on social media, they have a problem with it. If you say in the name of Jesus. That's why they got so upset with President Trump, because he had his first cabinet meeting, and his first cabinet meeting for his second term, they opened up in prayer in the name of Jesus. And all of those radical Democrats on the left, they all got upset about it. Even the ones that call themselves Christians, they got upset because President Trump allowed prayer in the Oval Office in his cabinet meeting in the name of Jesus. Why are they getting upset? It's the same reason why they're getting upset right now with Christians that are finally starting to speak up. And I can't stand these pastors that have thousands of people coming to their events and they don't ever address the issues that's affecting us as Christians today. They don't say nothing. And they don't say anything because they're afraid of the people sitting in their congregation going to get up and walk out because you said something that the radical left disagrees with. And see, in their minds, they say, well, they're going to have different opinion about different things. We need to appeal to everybody, Will Johnson. We need to get to everybody. So if we need to leave out certain topics and don't talk about certain things, we need to do that just so they'll come and put money in that basket. See, that's what it's really about. I know I got off on my little tantrum there. It just make me think about all these things that's happening in our world today. Everything that's happening right now, and it's intensifying. And I come on here every single day that God puts breath in me. And today I almost didn't even come on. Had a major migraine going on. Major migraine. My head is just boom, boom, boom. But I truly believe that God put me here during this time for me to say something, for me to speak up, for me to be out on the front lines, for me to take the brunt, the abuse, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse even, the financial abuse that the left has thrown at me. Do I like it? No, I don't like it. Some people say, well, Will Johnson, maybe you shouldn't do it if you're going through all of this stuff. Can you imagine? Now, let me be clear about something here. I'm not equating myself to anyone in the Bible, okay? Let me just be clear about that. But I use the God's word as an example on how Will Johnson should be. Does this make sense? Let me give you an example. The reason why I go out there on the weekends when I can and I go talk to these radical liberals, because I use the example of John the Baptist. And I've never even told my producer this because I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks, because a lot of people go, Will, how do you go out there and talk to these people and you're having conversation with it? Because a lot of people say, I can't stand those people. A lot of people say that. But see, John the Baptist, what he did, he went out there and he was triggering people to the point they chopped it off. He was triggering them. And he wasn't doing it to be hateful. He was doing it to bring awareness. Now, again, I'm not equating myself, but the Bible is my example on how we should be. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, Shannon? That the Bible, the people in the Bible, Moses, John, Paul, Matthew, John the Baptist, and ultimately, out of all of them, Jesus set the example on how we should be with one another and in this world. Now, am I perfect? No. And I'm going to stress this again. The Bible is an example on how we should be.
Well, I mean, the apostles weren't perfect.
No.
You know, I mean, they had Jesus right there with them, you know, and look at the waters got a little rough and they started panicking. And Jesus is like, where's your faith? They were right there. So, of course, it's imperfect people that God uses. But that's how we know that it comes from God, because it can't come. Some of the great things that we do and we say and that we have the power and energy to do, it comes from God.
Yeah, just to let you know, your mic is really low.
That was really low.
Yeah, your
Oh, I
mic is
see.
really low, and mine seems like a little tad low too. So I don't know if you can turn mine up at all, but it seems to be a tad low. So I'm just want to say yours was really low. Yours was really low. All right, did we have enough time? We don't even have enough time to get to some of this other stuff. And I do apologize for coming on here late, but man, I just felt like I had to rant about this.
You know what? That's what we do when something's on our heart.
I mean, I had to. It's just I have people send me messages saying, "Will Johnson, you're trying to be something you're not." And I asked them, I said, "Well, what is it you think I'm trying to be?" And they never tell me, what is it you think I'm trying to be? Because I'm just Will Johnson. And like I said, they've done so much to me. I mean, and it's not even pleasant at all. They financially hit me hard. For example, Facebook, just Facebook, before YouTube, and I'm thankful I got my YouTube channel back, and it's just been recently monetized here. And people can, if you find a need, if I said anything, you can bless me with a super chat. People do the Rumble rants every now and then, and I look at it as all a blessing. And even on pill.net, people send me pills, and I greatly appreciate the pills that they send me on pill.net. But Facebook can be a place where you can make a living. YouTube as well can be a place where you can make a living. But Facebook, they allowed hackers to take over my Facebook page. And now today, they won't even allow people to send me a Facebook star. And a single Facebook star equals to a penny. So it's been pretty devastating. I mean, I put so much work into it. My page had almost got right up to 500,000 people on it before they allowed the hackers to do what they did to me. And now it just financially hit me hard. And it's pretty devastating. Like as of right now, like my AC, my producer created a Give Send Go for my AC. So if you find it in your heart, you want to help me with my AC unit in my studio, because we're in Texas and it gets really, really hot here in Texas. So if you can go to givesendgo.com/fix my AC. I don't know if you can put that down at the bottom, at least, Shannon, in the lower third. givesendgo.com/fix my AC. I would greatly appreciate it. Maybe you can just bring it over then, the screen at least. Maybe you can just bring that over, since you can't since you don't have the lower third for it. Yeah, so right there you can see she replaced my head right there with a hot head. Not that I'm a hothead, but it is hot here in Texas. So if you find it in your heart, and people have already blessed me some by doing it. So there it is right there, the Give Send Go. givesendgo.com/fix my AC. I would greatly appreciate it if you find it in your heart to help me with that. Nothing else. People have been really helping me. And I hate to ask. People have been watching me for years. I don't like to ask. One person told me, said, Will Johnson, you need to stop. And this, I'll never forget what he said. He said, you need to stop being afraid to ask for help. He says, if you need help, you ask for help, because we see what you're trying to do and we want you to continue. And I said, you know what? I'm going to repeat what you said. And he said, do it. Repeat it. Because I have to admit, it's like I have to swallow my pride and say, oh my goodness, I have to ask for help. I don't want to have to ask for help. I really don't. But I'm asking for help. And with the Democrats, what they would love for me to do is to blame Trump. Blame Trump for my finances, because because of what happened, what Facebook did to me. They want me to blame Trump. They would love that. If I were to go and say that I'm no longer supporting justice in this country, no longer supporting what is right, no longer supporting Trump, they would love that. They would probably elevate my videos at that point. I'm like, okay, he's saying what we like for him to say now. Let's go ahead and push him now. They would do it then. But I'm sorry, I can't do it. Actually, I created a meme last night really quick. Shannon, can you go to my X page? And I want you, if you can, go to my X page really quick. And I want to say thank you to Greenbeard for the pills, and Filter Dog, and Ina. Thank you so much for the green. I'm sorry, for the gold pills. Thank you so much for the gold pills on pill.net. On pill.net. And for everyone watching on Rumble and YouTube, can you please bless me by hitting the thumbs up? Please bless me by hitting that thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. It would really mean a lot. Come on, Rumble. Come on, Rumble. Where y'all at? Hit that thumbs up for me. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. All right. So yeah, right here. Yeah, go ahead and bring it over. So this is a meme that I created, and I put this out there because, and this is the Demon Crash. They want me to they want me to dislike Trump. I'm not going to. They want me to dislike the country. I'm not going to. And I put this meme out there. I don't know if y'all seen it, but it says, they say once you go black, you don't go back. Well, I'm never going back to being a Democrat. Never going back to it. Never going back to being a Democrat. And of course, a lot of liberals got triggered from it. I put it on Facebook. I put it everywhere. Instagram, True Social, Getter, even what's the other one? Threads. I put it on there. And they don't like to see it because I'm a black man, happen to be with dreadlocks. And some of them go, well, my producer, she said, well, but you ain't black. You remember saying that, Shannon?
Yeah, because that's what Biden said. He said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Yeah, you ain't black. If you have to decide whether to vote for me or Trump, then you ain't black. You have to decide. Really? Like, black people can't make up their own minds about what they want to do. All right, everybody. It is 12 o'clock Central. We got like 40 seconds left. Hey, I do apologize again for coming on a little late. Like I said, right before I came on, I had a major pounding headache, and it's gotten a lot better since the show's gone on. But I have some other stuff that I want to share with you. But if you want to see that, if you go to my website, uniteamericafirst.com, go to my website, uniteamericafirst.com, and at the top of the page, you will see the different shows that I do throughout the week. And right there at the top of the page of uniteamericafirst.com, if you see Culture Wars, see, I got my shirt on right here. My shirt says Culture Warrior right here. You see that? Culture Warrior. That's for my show that's getting ready to come up in 1 hour from now. Please come over there, tune in. Just all you have to do is click on the Culture Wars, and it'll take you right to the network where you'll see the whole feed live. You'll see it live. You'll see me 1 hour from now, and I'm going to share information on that show that, of course, I don't share on YouTube and Facebook because they don't approve of some factual information. If you know what I mean. Christians are being persecuted, and I'm going to show it to you in the Culture Wars. So I'll see you 1 hour from now. God bless everyone, and thank you so much for hitting the thumbs up and your support.